Okay, folks, if you're looking for some kind of Lindsay Lohan type of advice on how to be a mean girl, I'm sorry, this isn't it. This is how to be mean with money so that you get out of debt. Being tight may not come naturally to all of us, but sometimes it is what we need to be. And no matter what people say about you, because you need to come out on top and get out from under financial stress.
Firmer Figures knows your money, cuts down on strife. Time to trust your future. Firmer Figures, love your life.
The Firmer Figures Business Show is brought to you by Financial Gym Studios. Welcome to the only gym where someone else does the working out for you, where you get impartial tips and strategies in plain English to help you understand your money, love your business, and trust your future. Introducing your host, author, speaker, and creator of Firmer Figures, the cantankerous coach, Georgette Roland Osborne.
Now, of course, we all want to spend sensibly, but the reality is we just can't be bothered to watch every single penny that comes in and out of our purses and wallets. But we can learn something from being really mean. Have you ever met a mean person? I don't mean mean to the point where they just don't live at all or that they're just horrible. I mean mean in that there is a method behind the mean madness, as it may seem. Well, today I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can take some steps, quite straightforward, simple steps, to become mean for a little while so that we can spend going forward. Now, I have a friend who's always been very shrewd with money. Even at a very early age, he showed how thriftness could work. Making money by charging friends for the simplest thing. If they wanted to have a go on his bike, they had to pay him 10p. I mean, for real. It was a BMX though, so hey. Nowadays, he is actually quite a successful businessman. He's got a family of his own, and you would think that he would have loosened up a little bit. But no, he's still keeping an eye on his spending. But even by my standards, some of them, and I'm not going to mention him in case he's listening, but he's got some tricks like he will use a tea bag twice. And he and his wife actually buy economy cereal and other items and put them in the box of the higher, more higher profile brand, so that the kids are none the wiser that they're not eating X brand. Now, this may seem extreme, but to my friend, this is second nature. And other money-saving techniques he has, which I do, is like buying in bulk when items are discounted or there's a special offer, and make sure that holidays are booked for the lowest price possible. Booking in advance means that Nick and his family are able to afford a nice home and enjoy. I mean, he does go away a few times a year, so it's not as if he's mean but has a poor quality of life. He's just decided that some things can give in order that some things can be gotten, shall we say. So by following his example and watching every little penny, even for a little while, let's see what we can learn. So a couple of colleagues of mine, or should I say clients of mine, names will be changed again. They are a duo that work together building a business, two lovely young ladies. And they finally paid off their student loans, and they were working part-time on their business and have gone full-time. But both felt that they needed to get a hold of their expenses, because though they were cautious about waiting until they were making enough money to be able to pay themselves, at least enough to cover what they would have been earning in their employment, things don't seem to be working out in the same way. Now, ignoring the obvious in that a business is also taking some of the money, at least when you were earning as an employee, all the money came to you. Now you're having to share some of that with business expenses. There still seemed to be an underlying problem that needed to be gotten to the bottom of. So the first thing I asked them to do was to complete a spending diary for a period of 1 month, a diary for the business and a diary for each of their personal lives. Now, both of the girls felt that when they did it, and finished the month, it had really helped them to get their spending into perspective. It wasn't something that they really wanted to do, but when you're paying someone to give you advice, it's funny how you take it. But both had agreed that prior to keeping the diary, neither had known where all their money was going. They thought they did, but they really didn't. And that includes all of us. It's a difficult thing to remember every penny. Anyhow, after a little bit of analysis, I and the girls came to the conclusion that both of them had to cut down on the main thing being their socialising bill, because their socialising was larger than their household expenses. In fact, larger than one of them had a mortgage and one of them was renting, and their socialising outstripped both of those things. Now, granted, a lot of that was for business, but a lot of that wasn't. And whether it was for business or not, socialising isn't always strictly necessary for every eventuality. When I worked in corporate and I used to take clients for lunch, the rule used to be that socialising is a thank you rather than a please. And it's amazing how that sets your mind as to whether you can justify that big lunch out in the afternoon for 4 hours. Anyhow, this also prompted me to say that they needed to get rid of their store cards and find a more economical way of buying their clothes. Most of their clothes, again, were business orientated or smart clothing. And of course, they did need to spend money on it, but it was just so willy-nilly and so random, and the store cards made it easy for them. And to add insult to injury, the store cards that they had, in the older days when I had my store cards, there used to be an incentive. You got money back or you got vouchers. They got nothing for these other than a much higher interest rate than they would have been paying on standard credit, or even better, using their debit cards. So let's talk about a little more on the common sense spending side. These young ladies are not too different from most of us when it comes to watching the pennies. And everyone can learn more about their own money habits and be more financially aware by following some of these tips. Now, number one, as I advise these young ladies to do, keep an honest diary of your spending. You'll soon find out genuinely where those pennies are going. 2, always have a mental picture of your budget in mind and stick to it. Yes, that does mean actually creating a budget, but initially it doesn't have to be anything too comprehensive. It could just be, when I get paid, this amount or this percentage goes to this percentage goes to that, and blah, blah, blah. And every month have an idea of what your standing orders are, your direct debits, roughly when they're coming out, because of course they're going to be regular, and don't go over that. And then see what surplus you have. So keep that in your mind. Constantly be scrutinizing your statements so that you actually can see what your pattern of money movement is. And that brings me to number 3. Don't ignore your financial statements. Open them. Don't throw them in the bin. I know it used to be you could look at your bank statements and not feel too bad. But now that we are debit card users, your debit card could create enough of a problem in your standard bank statements as your credit card bill would, because so much spending comes out of them with such ease because you have the card on you. Particularly, this is important as well, is if you're a freelancer, and this is number 4, if you're a freelancer, self-employed, budget for taxes. So on top of the other expenses you have, don't forget them. Remember, you may forget the taxes, but the taxman never does. Number 5, periodically try spending with cash rather than cards. Yeah, I know, it's old school. And you may find that it's so much harder to spend the cash than it is to swipe with the plastic. Give it a go. Number 6, avoid impulse buying. Allow yourself only one day shopping a week, or maybe every 2 weeks. Maybe a week is a lot if it's for socializing. If it's for business, then you may not have the choice if you're buying things that actually having to make your business work. And then when you've worked that out, anything above that, try and keep it for savings. And then limit your purchases to necessities. So once you've decided what you're going to... Now, I know I always tell you to save first and then spend. But in this case, we're just trying to analyze where the money's going. And if you're analyzing correctly and you find a surplus, just quickly put that to one side. But the spending, really, try and make that limited to what is really necessary. Number 7, you may not have heard the saying, but don't shop for food when you're hungry, because you'll only spend more. And that is so true. When you are looking for something, usually try and make sure that you're not desperate for it at the time. Don't wait until something breaks down. Don't wait until you've spilt something on your best suit that you were going to wear to that really important meeting next week. The best time to do it is when you're not in a hurry and you can analyze and you can do some research. And also what it may do is make you rethink whether you really need that thing. To go back to number 6, is it a necessity? Number 8, this is more for my young ladies. Limit the nights out. And if you do go out, set a spending limit. And keep bills for the drinks and meals out and look at them the next morning. Sometimes the shock is really great for a hangover. Number 9, watch how much you spend on snacks, takeaways. Homemade dinners are much cheaper and much healthier. If you are on the move a lot, this can get tricky. One of my biggest issues always used to be I was out meeting people all the time. And by the time I got in, it was difficult to make a meal. But I also had a family, so I had to figure something out. So you start to do menu planning. And then also you can figure out things that you can eat while you're on the go. Because when you're going into town or into the city, that sandwich for a couple of pounds doesn't seem like much, but when you're doing that every single day and then add it to the coffee, add it to the cake, add it to the extra snack because you're out a bit longer and you're a bit hungrier. Now, I am genuinely not a big advocate for penny pinching, much as I'm telling you to keep a spending diary. This to me is a temporary thing. The real way to increase your earning potential is to earn more and save more and spend less rather than just suppress your spending. So I like my latte or my cappuccino, I should say, but there's a point in time when you have to be realistic and say this just can't be happening right now. And number 10, make a list of your financial dreams or your fantasies, whatever you want to call them. Put a value on them, whether it be dollars, pounds, pence, or whether, and then decide how long it's going to take you to get to that financial dream and start saving based on that plan. So if you plan to go and live abroad in 10 years' time and to buy the dream home in Saint-Tropez, maybe I'm pushing it a bit, it's going to cost you X amount. Divide that by 10 and start saving. And that's a bigger example. There are smaller ones. The car you want, to be able to renovate your home in a particular way, buy the kitchen, do the bathroom, whatever it may be. It could just be you want to have more time and you need to earn a certain amount of money so that you can take one day a week off and it not impact you. So how much do you need to earn now to put away so that in time you can get to that? How much do you need to invest to get to that? If you put a pound value on that dream, it becomes real. And then it's the first step for you to start taking actionable steps to get to that place. So just to finish, of all the tips that I've given you, making an honest diary of your spending is actually the most brutal, but actually the most useful. And this applies to everyone, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a student, a full-time mum, a freelancer working part-time. Many people find it a revelation to see just where their money is going every month. And once you can identify where your weakness is, it could be chocolate and magazines or a daily trip to the sandwich bar. You can go about changing the wasteful habits and turn them into habits that set you up for the future. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, my firmer friends.
Firmer Figures knows your money cuts down on strife. Time to trust your future. Firmer Figures, love your life.